All right, you're on.
Are we really on? Yeah. Hello, everybody. I heard that you really liked my dancing last month. So this time, we're going to do Let's Get Physical. Okay, so enough of that.
Hey, Alexa, turn down. Hey, Alexa, turn off.
Okay, hi, everybody. So we are on our fourth week of doing this, and today I'm going to work on putting on binding. So I want to talk about when you get your quilts back from the quilter. So, or from, you did your own quilting. So I have quilted a little bit on my little placemat that I've been working on, and now I'm going to square it up. So the majority of the time what I do is I figure out a measurement of the borders and I use that consistently throughout. When the quilter quilts this, or when you quilt it, you're going to notice that things are going to scrunch up a little bit on you. So you need to make your borders appear to be as even as possible. So the way I do that is I set my ruler onto my project, and Deanna, you might need to come a little bit closer. I find a consistent measurement. So I'm using this inside border line because I like how straight that is. So I'm going to put my ruler on there, and I'm going to use 2 1/4 inch mark. And if I use that, I can see that I'm getting in all of my outside edge there. I can see I'm a little bit shy there, but my binding is going to cover that because I've still got my 1/4 inch that I'm going to sew at. So I've got more than 1/8 inch that'll turn there. I then am also going to check to make sure that I'm really square on the other edges that I've sewn. So this way it's going to appear like it's super straight, even though that you and I both know that I'm off by just a hair. Okay, I'm going to pick it up and turn it. I'm going to again do my 2 1/4 inch measure. I'm going to put that on my white piece of fabric inside of there. That way it's going to look like I'm perfectly square, even though on this one I can see I pulled in just a little bit right here, and that way I can make sure that that's all into the binding. I'm perfect here, I'm perfect here, I'm a little bit shy right in that center part, but my binding is going to cover that, and I'm okay with that. All is good. I'm really nice and square. So now we're going to move on to what we've decided we're going to use for binding. I found this batik out on the floor that I liked. Batiks are wonderful for binding because they're very good and strong. I just cut 2 strips at 2 1/4 inches wide. So 2 strips at 2 1/4. I am then going to sew these together so that I make one long continuous strip. And the way I'm going to do that is what I call sewing across the waist and not through the crotch. And it's a super easy trick. You're going to lay down your first piece. You're going to set your other piece right on top of this. Now, if this was traditional cottons, we would be doing right sides together, exactly the same. So this one would be right side up. This one would be right side down. And we're going to sew. So this is the crotch. This is the waist. These are my 2 legs. So I've got 2 legs, a crotch, and a waist. We're going to sew right across the waist. Many of you like to mark that. So if I'm going to mark it right across on those 2 points there. I'm just using chalk to mark with. There's my marking. I've got a pin to hold it in place. And I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew right across the waist there. I have my walking foot on. It doesn't matter if you use your 1/4 inch or your walking foot. We're going to be sewing straight across. So on my machine, I have a marking for a 0. I'm kind of watching that line to just make sure it still lines up with that 0 also. Bam, right across we went. Oh, I forgot to wind a bobbin.
Oh.
I knew it was out. Okay, you have to give me 10 seconds to wind a bobbin really fast, guys. I knew it was out too. What a bummer. Okay, so what else can I talk about really quickly? I can talk about the weather. Isn't it beautiful outside? We are having such a great day.
Bobbin winders was one of the things you talked about in BA10 too, right?
Bobbin winder? Mm-hmm. Well, you need to watch your bobbin as it's winding. Watch your thread that it's not getting twisted around anything. And I probably have plenty of bobbin on here to be able to do my binding with today. Bobbin winder is also one of the things that gets engaged quite often, that we think something else is broken on our machine, and it's usually just the bobbin winder is engaged instead of sitting where it should be. So I'm going to put my bobbin in super quick here, and you'll be able to watch me sew that same seam for a second time. Pull up my bobbin thread. Okay, and I am good to go. Oh, it's much better when you have thread in it. And once again, we're going to go right across the waist of this. So I'm going to line up that bottom. See where my 0 is there? It's straight across. We can already see my hole punches that I've made. Here's the best part. I stayed right on the line. It's a good day. So we are right across there. Nice and easy peasy. Okay, I am just going to take my ruler and rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut this and leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to put my ruler right on top, a 1/4 inch, and trim that off. Done. I'm going to take this to the ironing board now, and I'm going to show you the fastest, quick technique for doing your binding. If I don't make too much of a mess here. Okay, so the first thing I do want to do is any of the seams that I have in my binding, I am going to press open. Press open, and then typically what we do for binding is we start and we press folded in half. So this is a 2 1/4 inch piece of binding fabric, and I'm just going to press it in half. Once I've got it started about 4 or 5 inches, what is that, a hand? I then have this new tool, and it's called a Quilted Hearts, and it is a great binding tool. We sell them here in the store. If you're BA10 member, you get your 10%, and you're just going to set this into there, and then you're going to put your iron flat down and on it, and you are going to pull your fabric right through it. You want to turn down the heat on your iron just a little bit, because this mat retains the heat, and so does the iron sitting on top of it, so it can get quite hot on you. But you can see I can just keep pulling this right through, and I'm fiddling a little bit with my left hand, but not very much. I'm pretty pleased with the way that it folds it in half for me, and it keeps it nice and slow and steady right through that iron. I should have had Deanna start the timer on this, because I can't imagine that I've been doing it a minute yet, and I have 88 inches worth of binding done that fast. The one thing that you're going to notice is that your ironing mat will turn a little bit purple in color when the heat is on it. Once you take this off for a couple minutes, it goes back to its nice pinky color, so just be careful with that. So now we're going to move over and we're going to put this onto our quilt. Come on over, Deanna. So I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Many people use 3/8. It's really your preference. I don't like a big thick binding. I like a really thin. I just want a little bit of a picture frame. I do know that I still have the selvage on my end. I'm not worried about that right now. I am going to back up about 8 to 10 inches on my piece of binding, And then I'm going to move over to not quite the center on the side seam. I never want to put the ending of my binding someplace where everybody's going to notice it. So I try to put it like at the bottom right-hand corner or someplace where it's not super obvious. So I'm going to pick up the needle on my machine. I'm going to put this underneath. And whatever measurement you use, just use it consistently all the way around. So I'm using the outside of my foot, which is about 1/4 inch, and then there's a little bitty mark on the inside of my walking foot here, and that's going to be my turn point. So when I get to this corner, that's what I'm going to use to pivot. So I'm going to sew straight down to this end, and I like my stitch at a regular stitch, like at a 2.5 stitch length. Now, I'm watching for this edge right here, okay? And it's really the bottom edge, okay? So the back side, I can see that fabric. It's barely, I can see it. I want to line that up with that little mark right there. So I'm going to come forward. Maybe I can use this to point. See where that little mark is right there? That's what I'm going to line up to the edge of this fabric. So that mark to the edge. So I'm going slow and steady. And that, I'm going to do one more. Okay, I leave my needle in. I'm going to pick up my foot and I'm going to turn and I'm going to sew to the point now. So I'm sewing right to the point of that fabric. So by that I mean this little point right here. Okay, so my needle should be pretty much in a straight line going off there. Perfect, okay? And I'm going to leave my needle up. I'm going to take this out from underneath here and I'm going to cut it. I don't do any of these big, huge fold over, fold back things, okay? I turn my quilt first off. That's the first thing I'm going to do is turn it. And you can see that your binding's already starting to turn with you. I then just pick up this point. See how it made that funny little point right there? I pick that point up and I just turn it, okay? And then I fiddle just a little bit to make sure that that point is nice and neat. I just want a really nice point right there. Okay, super easy, not a lot of fiddling, and this little line helps it to turn really nicely. So I'm not fiddling a lot. And I'm ready to go again. I set this back up and under. I'm using the outside of my foot. I start right at the very edge. Don't leave a gap, don't leave a space, just start sewing at the very edge of your fabric. Do you also see how I'm barely holding onto my fabric? This is a small project, so you're not going to have a lot of weight pulling it the wrong way. If you've got a heavy quilt, try to get as much of it up here on your table so that it's not pulling it in reverse on you. If you're making super little stitches, it's because it's too weighted. You've got to move it up more. I'm coming up to this corner. I'm going to slow down a little. Okay, pick up. Turn to the point, sew off. Okay, pick it up from underneath there, cut those threads, turn your quilt, and see it's automatically, I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to let it turn the corner. What am I caught on here? Okay, turn the corner. When you turn, it automatically kind of makes that little point. Just push that up there. Just make it so it looks nice and neat, and you're ready to go. No big, huge pick up, turn around. I've seen people flipping binding all over the place. Start right at the edge again and start sewing. So here's where my seam joined from before. I have seen people cut these little tabs off. That's all your decision. I don't stress over that. Nobody's going to really notice that much extra bulk in the seam. I'm going to keep going. Watch for my corner, one more stitch, turn, sew right off, take it out, cut it, turn the corner, let that piece come over. That's how quick I can get that point looking nice. I have seen people take their pin and go in there and just make sure that their pin is in there nice and neat. If that works for you, so your pin should make a straight line.
Sorry, do that for me one more time. Let me get on the other side.
Yep, absolutely. So it's here like this, okay? You can take your pin and put it up and in there and just make sure that your pin is making a straight line. So you're pulling this one straight and that pin is just laying across it. So if I stick the pin all the way through, you can see it's right flat in there. And that way you've got a nice flat line there. Nothing super fancy, guys. Set it back up underneath your machine and sew straight. You don't have to worry about any other corner now. We'll do that with the pin again on this next corner. And stitch, stitch. Oop, one too many maybe. Maybe. Nobody will know. Nobody will care. Oh, I think it was right. Take it out, pull it up. Okay, we're going to do that pin one more time if that makes it easier for you, okay? We're going to take our pin. We're going to just hold it up for a second. We're going to put it right in there. Okay? Hey. And it's right up at the top edge. And we just fold it across the pin. I mean, super easy. So the pin goes right across that top inside of there. We're ready to go again. When you go see how these turn to the other direction, you're going to love it. Okay, so I need to leave myself enough of a gap here in between these two pieces, okay? So I've gone in. I don't ever want to end right on a corner. And I have seen people back tack here to hold it secure. If you're comfortable with that and that's what you want to do a couple stitches backwards. That makes you happy, go for it. I'm going to pull this out from underneath here, and now we're going to head back to the cutting table. I'm going to show you how to join these two pieces with a super easy method. Okay, so I have my two pieces. I know that they're 2 1/4 inches wide. I see how much extra I have here. I have tons extra. I am just going to cut a piece of this off. A nice piece. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to use this as my measuring tool. Okay, I'm going to set the bottom piece down. This is the piece I sewed first. Lay it down flat. Make sure it's nice and flat. No rumples, no whatever. I'm going to set this right on top of it. And then I can mark. And I did everybody a favor. We're going to exchange. These two pieces are cut exactly the same width, but I think it's going to be easier for you to see on camera. So I just took this off of another binding strip. It's the same exact width as this. I'm going to set it on top so you can see it easier. I hope that helps everybody. I did think about, I used a batik, mistake. Okay, on the left-hand side, I'm going to draw a line. Okay, so I drew a line right there. Barely you can see it. Let me draw one more. Let me do it again. Probably if I put a little tension on it, it'll help. Okay, so I drew a line right there. I'm going to cut right on that line. Cut that off. Okay, that's my first piece. Put that right back, line up that line. So all of that is lined up on that side. I'm going to then lay my top piece across, make sure it is sitting nice and smooth. And I'm going to cut on the opposite side. So now I'm going to cut over here. Okay, I can draw a line if that makes me happy. It doesn't really, I don't really care. Okay, and I'm going to cut that off. So now these two pieces, the piece underneath and the piece on top, will overlap perfectly. So here comes our pant leg again. We need to create our pants again. So we're going to pick up these two pieces. One piece, see how I've got it in my hand? It just pick it up. I pick up the other piece, pick it up. And we need to make two legs. If we put these together, just like that, we've got two legs. See how we've got a leg and a leg. They're right sides together. We've got two legs. We need to sew across the waist, not through the crotch. So I've got a leg, and I've got across the waist. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine. Now, one of the things that I have figured out that works really well for me is I pin this little piece right here. So this is tight. This is a really tight little piece. I might actually wind up taking out a couple stitches there. But I can take this and pin it, and then that way it's not so cumbersome for me to deal with. So I'm just holding that in place. I've got my two pieces right here, right sides together, and I need to sew across the waist. Right sides together, and I'm going to sew right across the waist. And I've lined up my point right there to the 0. I've got my other point up there to the 0. I need to grab my foot control, and I'm going to sew right across. When I open this up, shazam, those two pieces fit in there absolutely perfect. I'm going to go inside of here, trim off this big old ear because I don't want an ear in there. And you can use your rotary cutter or your scissors. I'm just going to use my scissors. It's right at about 1/4 inch. I give that a little pull. I can finger open up that seam, or I can take it to the ironing board and press that open. Put that in there. Get rid of these ugly threads here. And I'm going to sew that right in place. It's a good day. It all went into place very nicely. Let me trim up the thread here in this corner. And watch, when I turn this corner now, I'm going to turn it and look at how pretty that miter is right there. I'm going to turn that to the back side and the back side. Isn't that pretty? And now look at our back side over here. Okay. Push that corner out. We're going to turn this here and turn this here, and it's beautiful. That looks fabulous. What a nice corner. Same is going to work on the other corners. Turn it to the other side. Turn it to the other side. We'll go to this corner. Turn it and turn it, and then hand sew it in place. Isn't that nice? Nice mitered corners. Okay, so that's what I'm showing you today. I hope everybody got a little smarter. I think that joining the binding like that, where'd we join it at? Right here. We can't even really see. Can't tell where it's at. It looks excellent. We are ready for beautiful mitered corners. So everybody have a great day today. I've got a couple things to show you really quick. On the wall over here is the class that is Arabian Nights. It is a paper piecing class, and the pro of it is it's very repetitive. So if you haven't tried paper piecing is awesome because once you learn the technique, you're doing it over and over again in this one. You're creating the same center star many times. And I have seen this done in all blues. I've seen it done in an array of purples. It's called Arabian Nights, and it's just a fun class to be in. It is coming up in a couple weeks. The other thing that happened is we got in our Tula Pink, and we already have a sample done with Tula Pink. And Tula's got the greatest black and white group right now. There are zebras and skunks and penguins. No, not penguins. That's what we keep saying. We want penguins. Pandas. We're surprised she didn't do penguins. And it's just a fun group of fabrics. So we do have the new Tula Pinks in. So come in and get your polka dots or get whatever you need of her new product. Anything else, Deanna?
Just recap that's called the Binding Ease.
Yes. No, it's called a Quilt Binding Ease?
Yeah, that's the company, Quilted
okay.
Hearts.
Quilted Hearts is the company. Binding Ease is the tool. So we do have these in stock also. Don't forget, we will be doing our drawing next week. So I will see you again next week, Monday. And next week, Monday, I'll have a quick little tip on how to actually hand do your binding. And a couple things that I like to do personally. And I'll have my sample still here and we'll work off of that. Anything else? No, I think we're good. I hope everybody has a great week. Isn't the weather wonderful? It's so nice to get up this morning and have a cool, cool day. So enjoy yourselves, and I will see you again next Monday for our drawings. Bye now.